For this video, we're going to start going back over stuff that we've looked at throughout the unit to help get ready for our upcoming tests. So we looked at sequences, regression, and systems. To start with, we looked at sequences, and we have two types, arithmetic and geometric. For arithmetic, you're adding or subtracting the same number each time, and that number that we add or subtract is called our common difference. We have two types of formulas, the recursive and explicit. Recursive is more of a definition. It defines what's going on in your sequence. So for our arithmetic, it's a sub n. So your term right now equals a sub n minus 1, the previous term, plus your common difference. Then explicit is what we'll use to get more of the linear equation, and that's a sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d, right? Where the a sub n value is the actual term itself. So like if we said a sub 4, that might be 14. And then a sub 1 is the first term, and then n is the number term that you're on, right? So the n here are the same. The a sub n here and the n here are going to be the same, all right? So then arithmetic is always linear, okay, because we're going up by the same amount each time. That's our slope, right? Then we have geometric. Geometric is where you multiply by the same number each time, and that number is what we call our common ratio. So again, we have recursive and explicit. So recursive is the same as arithmetic, except instead of adding the common difference, we're multiplying by the common ratio. And then explicit is a sub n equals a sub 1 times r to the n minus 1. So it's always your first term, your initial value, times your rate of growth or decay to the n minus 1. And then geometric is always exponential. Then we looked at regression. So a couple of things with the regression and the calculator is that you need to turn on your stat plot and your diagnostic every time you get your calculator and get ready to do one of these problems. So to turn your stat plot on, you're going to go second y equals, and you just want to make sure that first one says on. Then to turn your diagnostic on, we're going to go second 0, and then scroll down to diagnostic on. And you can skip there by saying x to the negative 1 to get down to the letter D in the alphabet. And then you want to scroll down to diagnostic on and make sure that's turned on. All right, to enter your data, we want to press the stat button. And we'll go to the first one where it says edit. Now it takes you to your L1, L2. Put your x's in L1, put your y's in L2. Make sure they're even. If they're not even, if you don't have the same number in each column, you'll get an error whenever you try to calculate anything. All right, then to graph it, instead of pressing graph and waiting for it to load, we're going to press zoom 9, which is zoom set. All right, so just go straight to zoom 9. That's going to take you to fit all of your points in your window, and you can kind of look at what your graph looks like. Then we actually have to find our regression. So we have 3 different types now. So to get to your regression models, you're going to press Stat, and then scroll over to the right until you see Calc. And our 4 options, the first one is linear. So we have linreg at number 4. And then we've got quadreg at number 5. And then all the way down to 0, we have xbreg, exponential. Okay, and unless it tells you the specific one to do, if you have to choose, you need to look at your r value. You want the r value that's farthest from 0. Okay, then once you get that equation, remember you have to do whatever equation you want to use has to be the most recent one you did, or the calculator is not going to use it. They're going to use whatever the last one you did was. So if you want to use quadratic, but you just did exponential, your calculator is going to use the exponential. So make sure that once you decide which one you need, you could go back and find that one more time. Then I want to paste that equation. So I'm going to go to y equals, because that's where I want to paste it. And then I'm going to press vars and go down to number 5, statistics. Scroll over to EQ, and I want that first one for regression equation, reg EQ. And that's going to paste everything nice and neat for me in y equals. Then you can look at your graph and see how good of a fit that model is, which hopefully it's a good fit. Right? Then you have the 2 types of problems. One where you're given x and you have to find y. And that's where you have 2 options. One is to use your table, which means we're going to go second graph, and just scroll down to the x value to find what y is. All right, the second option is to trace. So that's when you press the trace button, and then you type in your x value, press enter. And it's going to tell you what the y value is. Remember, when you use your table, you can skip. By pressing a second window, you can skip to whatever value you want in the table. When you do trace, you need to make sure before you start typing in a number that it says Y1 in the top corner of your screen. If not, it's going to take you out of the graph mode and take you back to your home screen. So make sure it says Y1, And then if you get an error whenever you're trying to trace, that means that you just need to go in and adjust your window so that it fits that x value in that window. Right? And then the other option is when you're given y and you want to find x. So you're going to go to y equals and type in whatever your y value is. Go back to your graph, make sure you can see the intersection, and then we're going to go second trace number 5 intersect. And let the calculator find that intersection for us, and that is where our y value is, or x value is at that y value. Right? And then we looked at systems, and in particular looked at nonlinear systems. So we technically have 2 ways of solving a nonlinear system, but we looked at 3 different ways because one was by hand. Right? So our substitution is the one that we've seen before, right? And that's where you solve one equation for one variable, and then you substitute it back into the other equation. Then you solve for your given variable, then you plug it back in to find that second variable, and then you want to write your answer as an ordered pair. Okay, remember, if I get a true statement, so if I get 0 equals 0, that is true, so that means that it's all real numbers or infinitely many solutions. If I get a false statement, so 4 equals 7, that is not true, so that means it's no solution. So keep that in mind whenever you're solving algebraically. Then we solve by graphing. And on our graph, the intersection is our solution. So you're going to put each equation in y equals form and graph them. Remember, the first one that you graph, you want to fill in as many points as you can so that you can quickly see where the second graph crosses. Find your intersections, and there's your answer. Then we talked about doing it on the calculator, letting the calculator do all the work for us. So you got to, again, put them in y equals form because that's the only way you can graph them on the calculator. Go to y equals, put them in 1 and 2. Find your intersections by going second trace 5 intersect. Now remember, the first time you do it, you just press enter, enter, enter. The second time, you're going to have to scroll over so that you can tell the calculator that you want to find the second intersection if you have more than one. So you just scroll that cursor over, then press enter, 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 and it'll find your new one.